Grinders, it's Chief. It's TJ. We are in the building. It is pre-locked for Showdown, and I'm going to be with you every Sunday, except the week of November 4th. I'm getting married that weekend. I will not be here for that one. Other than that, we are going to be here Sunday after Sunday after Sunday, getting you guys ready for the Showdown slate, and I'm very excited. TJ, let's start with this. It's the first one. Folks, give us a little grace. It's our first Showdown show on a Sunday after having to sweat our full lineups for the main slate. And let me just say, as we talked about before the show, I was so close. Like the build was solid. I think in the big millie on FanDuel, I think I'm going to finish. My highest is going to finish somewhere in the 300s. And so process solid. I had some of the nut players, some of them I did. Yeah, I'm at 362 right now. I think the games are over. That's the highest I'm going to finish in that one. Going to get about half of my money back. I'll take that. That's no problem. We'll see. We'll run it back again. I am chasing the millie this year. Want to see if we get lucky enough to be in that rare air. How did your day go, my friend?
It went really, really poorly. Looking back, Anthony Richardson was my top QB, and I was super heavy on the Miami and Chargers games. So it didn't really feel like it should have gone this bad. But I'm going to make I think my entry fees were, I'll just say I'll make about 10% of my entry fees back. So not a very strong percentage, but we got the Showdown tonight. We're on to next week. That's all right. I'm lucky. I've been doing very well in MLB lately. I think I've taken down the mini max 3 times in the last 2 weeks. And so that has helped pad the funds for NFL season. It'll allow us to take an L or 2 early on.
Okay. Well, listen, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and hop right in because this is a very interesting Showdown slate today because I feel like on one side, which is the Cowboys side, I think we have a more condensed production tree. On the Giants side, we have a condensed tree, I think. But notice I'm saying I think because I think they have too many unknowns at receiver for us to make hard decisions. So I think that's where we're going to get some of that wonky exposure. In my opinion, the wonky exposure is going to come from that particular side of the ball. And so we're going to hop in. I'm going to do some screen share, obviously. And let's just kind of get your initial thoughts on this one. How are we feeling about this particular build overall? I have some thoughts, but let's get your thoughts.
So it's mostly the same on the 2 sites for me. And I actually wrote up 3 different articles today, I guess, for this game. I was on the expert survey, and then I did the prize picks article for this one, as well as so maybe let's say if we get 40 likes, I'll drop my top prize picks thing, and maybe we can even, if we got time, make a little card together here for the end of the show. And then I also did the DraftKings and FanDuel Showdown strategy article today. And it's similar on the 2 sites, except for one player, basically. And that one player is Tony Pollard. So on FanDuel today, I love Tony Pollard. He's the 5th highest owned player. He's the 5th most expensive player. He's picking up very similar ownership than he is on DK, but with a way bigger discount. On DK, he's the most expensive player today. The biggest things that stand out to me are the receivers are going under owned at the captain and MVP position. I'm liking me some CeeDee Lamb today. I really like some Brandon Cooks props today. And then Saquon Barkley at the MVP position on or maybe he's the captain on DraftKings. I'll figure it out before we get into it here. I'm just getting my tabs right. But there's one of them that he's picking up very low ownership. I like him quite a bit. So I'm going to be trying to focus heavily on Barkley and Lamb as my two big guys today. Brandon Cooks being my favorite in the mid tier, and then mixing and matching the different cheapies to make it work.
Okay. Well, listen, I'm gonna primarily keep this part of the discussion for myself, DraftKings based, just because I do think, and that's one thing, TJ. I think you mentioned in terms of writing strategy. Strategy is, I think, a touch different on both sides because of that salary differential at the captain spot on DraftKings, and so you can get a little bit more creative. I feel like if you're playing the MVP on FanDuel, like there's no punishment in terms of salary, so you better have the highest score in one of those lineups, or it's going to be tough sledding. On DraftKings, I feel like the flex is where we're going to make our money tonight, which is interesting because in Showdown you want to get that captain right. But I feel like the flex is where we're going to make our money because the Giants have so many receivers available that you just kind of don't know maybe how it's going to shake out. However, I will say in the Showdown short, I talked about two plays. I'm going to go ahead and give those out since I talked about them. One of my favorite plays on this slate is Darius Slayton. And let me tell you why. So Darius Slayton has been in this offense. He definitely can take the top off of a defense. And he's not that expensive. So, and let me give you a reference to that as well, TJ and friends. Michael Gallup is 5,800. Darius Slayton is 5,400. That doesn't make any sense to me when I feel like Darius Slayton should be more of a primary option in this offense. So he's one of my favorites today coming out of the flex at 5,400. Yes, we've got Paris Campbell at 44. We've got Isaiah Hodgins at 6,400. You know, he's more than Darius Slayton. I do think Sterling Shepard could be sneaky. You know, he's a guy that's had some concussion problems and injury problems, but when he's been in this offense, he's been very active. Perhaps that's someone they use, but I do think Darius Slayton in this spot, it feels like some fantasy goodness to me if they've got to air this thing out throughout the game. I know that Saquon's going to be involved in the pass game. I know Daniel Jones is going to be involved in the run game. And you're saying, well, Chief, why are you saying that? Well, because typically you want Saquon to run and catch. You want Daniel Jones to primarily throw, but he's going to throw and run, and Saquon's going to run and catch. Those are your primary options. But I think Darius Slayton, coming in at 5,400, he's a great play. And on the other side, one of my favorite plays coming in at tight end, and this is another guy I talked about, is Jake Ferguson. I don't think it can be overlooked in terms of the impact Dalton Schultz had on this lineup, TJ. Dalton Schultz was very involved in the Cowboys offense, very involved. And now you're telling me he's gone, he's in Houston, and you're saying, hey, and we saw Jake Ferguson begin to get involved last year some, and now he's going to be the primary guy. I think Jake Ferguson has big-time fantasy upside in this spot. And what if I told you I like him better than Darren Waller today? I love Jake Ferguson in this spot.
So, raw points, I definitely don't like him better than Darren Waller. Point per dollar, I like him so much better than Darren Waller today. I'm with you. I think Jake Ferguson is a absolutely fantastic play. And I'm planning on getting to him in a pretty large margin today. I am only playing 3 lineups, so I guess I shouldn't say I'm getting to him all that crazy amount, but he is in, I believe, 2 of my 3 lineups.
Yeah, I love Ferguson today. He's one of my favorites on the slate. Like in terms of, once again, I think this season, TJ, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about these slates from the flex out. A lot of times we start at captain, but I think identifying a lot of those flex plays are really good because a lot of those flex plays, most of your plays are going to come into flex. You're only going to have, in my opinion, the optimal way to win is to condense your captain tree and don't try to play everyone. Condense it down to a handful of guys that you like. 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Get those guys in, check the percentages, but identifying your flex guys is where the money is made. So once again, those two guys in the flex, they're not lock buttons. I'm not locking them in. But I think having nice exposure to those two guys on this slate, like we've got Ferguson at 18%. I'm probably what I would recommend is somewhere between 25 and 30. You see what I'm saying? You don't have to go well above the field, but if you go above the field enough as those lineups start coming in, you're giving yourself a chance. We've got Darius Slayton around 17%. In my opinion, similar situation. I'm probably going to have him in the range of 25 to 35% because I think the production is going to be there. So a lot of times when I think that's something good to talk about too, TJ, when we're in lineup HQ and we're saying let's get over the field. Over the field doesn't necessarily mean 100%, 80%. It means over the field enough to where it makes a difference if it hits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. I think that was very well said. And it's like, it depends on the amount of ownership that they have too. If somebody's going to be like 60, 70% owned, I'm more likely to take a pretty egregious stand, like either a lock button or way underweight, like probably half that much kind of thing. And so it'll kind of depend on the player, how aggressive I'll want to go based on that. But yeah, the players I'm going to be looking to go the most overweight on today are the Cowboys receivers, Lamb and Brandon Cooks, and then Jake Ferguson as well. I really like all the pass catchers today for Dallas. I feel better about them than I do the Giants because I feel like Daniel Jones could complete passes to 11 different pass catchers today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's do this, TJ. One of the things I want to do this year on the Sunday show is, as you guys can see, we've got our captain slot here pulled up. And so what I'm going to attempt to do is have the captain portion of this particular show trimmed when we go live. And then we'll go through a process of trimming it down even more and just give people an idea of working through the process for Showdown rather than just giving them plays. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I want this to be the Sunday show to be a little bit more process driven rather than plays driven. And hopefully the people can grab some nuggets. So as you can see, I've already kind of whittled it down with some of the guys that I didn't think we were going to play, like at captain. And I'm not saying a $200 tight end can't work at captain. But what I'm saying is if they're not going to be involved, we don't have any injuries, that's not optimal, right? But what is optimal typically in the captain spot are receivers. And then like we saw the other night with so many guys out, for Kansas City and the way Patrick Mahomes spreads the ball around, Patrick Mahomes can be optimal because there was no Kelce. So the ball is just going everywhere, but he's the main guy making the ship run. So I just want to talk through that. And I had a lot of Amon-Ra St. Brown on that particular slate. And it almost worked out. I think if I swap Amon-Ra St. Brown for Mahomes, I split it with a bunch of people. But that's here nor there. No big deal. So, TJ, I don't know if you can see this, but I've got Pollard, Barkley, Lamb, Prescott, Jones, Waller, Cooks, Hodgins, Gallup, Slayton. I cut it off at basically the main guys, and then we want to trim this thing down even more. Let's just say a couple have to go right now. I'm assuming you're going to go with the Giants pass catchers. I'm going to throw caution to the wind on them. But who's your first guy out at the captain spot out of those choices?
You know, I do like the Giants receivers, but probably more in the flex than the captain. However, I think of this group, the first one I would cut actually would be Michael Gallup.
Michael Gallup. I like that. He's definitely probably – Michael Gallup is the third receiver. He could be the fourth option. I definitely think the tight end is ahead of Michael Gallup in the pecking order, in my opinion, based on how their offense has been run in the past. I definitely think Michael Gallup is out. All right, so that leaves us with Pollard, Barkley, Lamb, Prescott, Jones, Waller, Cooks, Hodgins. I think Hodgins has more PPR upside. I think Slayton has more raw upside. I'm going to get rid of Hodgins. And I'm not saying he can't win a slate. I'm saying I feel like most likely Darius Slayton has 2 catches, 85 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like that, he has that kind of upside. I don't see that from Hodgins, generally speaking. And then now that kind of gets us down to the main guys. And when we look at the the ownership, Dak Prescott is 15% projected ownership for the captain spot. Daniel Jones is 11, Saquon's 11. Everybody else is pretty much 10 and under. That's where we are in the captain, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 options left. Anybody else you want to trim out of here before we kind of talk through some captain strategy?
So if it was me, I think I would still I'd probably trim Slayton, but if you want to keep him in there, I'm totally okay with that. I would still want to trim Darren Waller though. With him just not quite being 100% with it being a hamstring, I could.
He was my next guy.
He with it being a hamstring, even if he's playing, it could be one of those situations where he plays 30% of the snaps he usually does because he aggravates it slightly, and then they don't want to make it worse because he's their big guy of the future outside of, maybe even more so than Saquon Barkley, because who knows if he's going to be there after this year. And so Waller is one of the guys I would take out of there. I'd probably want to pare it down a little more with Slayton too, but I don't mind this group whatsoever looking at it as a kind of core of 7 guys here. The reason I like keeping Slayton is just because he's 1% owned. And so we can get 3% Darius Slayton in the captain position today and be triple the field.
Right. And that's kind of where I am with Slayton. Like, he's the one home run hitter on this team right now besides Saquon that we know about. Once again, he's got 2 catches, 86 yards, and 2 touchdown upside. Like, he has that in the repertoire where I don't think the other receivers have that right now. So I'm with you. I definitely want to keep Slayton. And so we've got our pool trimmed down. And so, TJ, when we look at the ownership here, we've got Pollard at 9, Saquon at 11, CD at 7. So let's talk through this. This is wrong, or the field is making a mistake. Am I right? Like this. So when I'm looking at ownership and I'm trying to make decisions, right? I'm trying to make decisions like this. When I start seeing Brandon Cooks at 4%, at 5.27%, excuse me, and I start seeing CeeDee Lamb at 7.5 in the captain, I start getting real excited because now this tells me, TJ, this is where I need to take a stand because either of these 2 guys could absolutely be optimal today. Either of them could be the captain. So when I'm looking at Cooks here, I'm just going to kind of show you guys how I would do it. And then TJ, if you have a version, right now I'm just going basic. I'm not going to get into the groups or the any of that stuff. Maybe we'll keep that for another show. But for me right now, when I look at this and I see Brandon Cooks at 5%, I'm just going to plug in 10 to 20% captain. If I end up with 15, I'm perfectly fine.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Like either the projections are wrong or the field is crazy today because 7.5% projected ownership on CeeDee Lamb. That is enough right there to make him, like, if I'm running a lot of lineups, he is my highest owned captain, bar none, for sure, just because of that ownership. I think it will likely see him closer to 10, and I actually think we're going to see Brandon Cooks lower than 5. I don't think it's going to be that high, which is one of the reasons why I like Brandon Cooks in the captain position so much as well. And then even on FanDuel, like Tony Pollard, who I love way more over there because he's a lot cheaper, but Brandon Cooks and like CeeDee Lamb still in the MVP position, super low owned. And Brandon Cooks, I think we're projecting for like 2.5% at the MVP position there. We talked about Slayton having big upside on like 2-3 plays. Cooks is the same thing. He could have 3 catches for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns today.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when I look at the captain, so like for instance, and I'm not going to worry about Pollard and Dak Prescott and Dane. Like those guys are already getting like what I consider to be and Barkley. Those guys are getting what I consider to be normal ownership in their own right for the captains. It looks like the field is going to be very into Dak tonight with him around 15% in the captain. And so to me, so TJ, hear me out. Hear what I'm telling you. If Dak has a big game, it's more likely that Brandon Cooks or CeeDee Lamb has a big game. Like versus Mahomes, where he's for sure throwing to 15 guys, 10 guys, 12 guys, whatever. If Dak has a big game, then CeeDee Lamb probably has a big game and or Brandon Cooks, which means they're probably optimal. Like let's say Dak throws for 303. CeeDee Lamb probably has somewhere between 8 to 10 catches, 100 yards, and 1 or 2 touchdowns. Brandon Cooks probably has somewhere between 5 to 8 catches, 80 to 100 yards, and a touchdown. The tight end probably has 4 to 5 catches, 50 yards, and a touchdown. Somewhere up in there. Michael Gallup could be sprinkled in on one big play. I get that. But I'm saying, generally speaking, how this offense has been run is it's very condensed on CD, tight end, and then they've got Brandon Cooks down. I think they're going to use him. So let's last thing about the captain, and then we'll get over to the ultimate, just going through flex plays, because that's going to be important. That makes me want to X Dak Prescott out of the captain for me.
So
as crazy as that sounds,
where I'll push back on that is I don't think you X him. I think you make a rule. You go to the groups portion in lineup HQ. You make Dak Prescott captain / MVP a conditional player, and you say I will only play Dak Prescott at the captain or MVP when I'm also playing 4 Dallas pass catchers. So I'm only doing a Dak Prescott MVP when it's a Cowboys onslaught lineup where I have Lamb, I have Cooks, and then 2 of Gallup, Ferguson, Hendershot, Vaughn, Rico Dowdle, and just like guys like that, because it could easily be a dump off touchdown, Pollard even. And so I'm only playing a Dak Prescott MVP in a line / captain in a lineup that it's a full on Cowboys onslaught.
Yeah, I totally get it. I think we're going to have differing philosophies on that one. But once again, folks, this is why I'm hoping you're going to really enjoy this Sunday show. TJ and I are going to have slightly different philosophies on this, right? And so, and that's fine. Like, that should give you some insight into how we even build lineups. Just talking through philosophy, I'll explain why I feel like getting rid of Dak for myself is something that I'm going to do. It's mainly because what helps me do, TJ, at captain, it really allows me to get more exposure to CD, more exposure to Cooks. Mm-hmm. So if I'm getting rid of Dak, then I can play Pollard at 20%. I can play CD at 20%. I can play Cooks at 15%, and really hammer the field if they go off today. And that's basically my philosophy on totally just removing Dak. But here's what I would do, TJ, and then we'll get into the flex stuff. When I remove Dak from the captain, this is what I did on the Thursday slate. I played 0 Mahomes captain. What I did was I locked him in flex 100%. And that's what I would be doing tonight by getting rid of Dak. I'm saying, okay, Dak, I think your pass catchers are going to be the ones that carry us here, but I know you're going to have a good game. I'm going to get rid of you in captain. I'm locking you in flex, and now everything else is bumped off of Dak 100% flex, and let's build these pass catchers around him. All right, so let's talk through the flex positions, TJ. We're going to go to quarterback here. We talked about Dak enough. Daniel Jones, we're going to
one last thing I want to mention at that captain position. I like that strategy for MME. I'm running 3 lineups today. One's a CD captain, one's a Dak captain, and one's a Cooks captain. Remind me after the game has locked. I want to go through that Prescott team because I want to talk through the strategy of what it is. But it's kind of difficult to do without giving away my entire lineup, and I don't want to give away the entire lineup before the game locks. So let's remind me to do that afterwards. And then viewers, we got almost 200 people watching now. Thanks so much for joining us live, but let's make sure we're hitting that like button. If we can get up to 50, Chief and I will build a quick beginning of a prize pick card for the game if we can get it up to 50 before lock here. So smash that like button.
TJ, lock is 820, okay? Lock is at 820. For those of you that have always watched this, for those of you that have watched this Sunday show, sometimes I have a tendency to forget 8:15, 8:20, and sometimes it's 8:15, and then I'm behind the 8 ball, and I'm like, oh no, I didn't get all my lineups in. So lock is 8:20. That's more for you than me. TJ, let's roll over the quarterback. I'm personally gonna be locking Dak Prescott into the flex. But once again, I understand the philosophy of not doing that. How do we feel about Daniel Jones?
I don't mind Daniel Jones today. I'm kind of trying to force Daniel Jones into lineups because I find myself like I love these CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks style captain teams, but then like most of my favorite players are like are cheapies after I'm trying to do that. And so I find myself kind of building lineups where it's like, oh, I have Prescott and Lamb in the captain position, but then 3 other Cowboys here. Well, Lamb's probably not going to be the highest scoring player if Prescott is achieving with all of these other Cowboys. Like that doesn't correlate very well. So then I've been trying to jam Daniel Jones into those lineups to be able to get some Giants pass catchers in there correlating as well, as opposed to just the Cowboys ones. So don't love Daniel Jones today. I think the Cowboys defense is going to be very, very strong this year, but I really like how well he correlates with the Lamb and Cooks captain teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it 100%. Definitely got some good run back there. Let's go over to running back. I did trim running back down a little bit. I'm only showing 4. Obviously, we have more than that. I think I got rid of Rico Dowdle. I got rid of, I think, Brightwell. Who else did I get rid of? In fact, let me just go to exclude it. You can see. Yeah, I got rid of Dowdle, Brightwell, and Eric Gray. Rico Dowdle is showing a bit of a projection here at 4.76 fantasy points. He's 1.8K. We've got him projected for 8% ownership. Me personally, when I don't think a guy's going to produce at all, I just like to go ahead and get rid of them. I do understand in Showdown, sometimes you get rid of this 1.8K guy. If he falls in the end zone for 2 touchdowns, then I know I'm screwed today. But I don't see Dowdle, Brightwell, or Gray having a crazy impact on this game. And so I am okay with excluding them. Now let's go back to the guys that we still have. Pollard, Barkley, Deuce Vaughn, Breida. How are we feeling about those guys?
I'm quite bullish on Saquon Barkley today, just because I think he's going to be heavily involved if they're coming from behind or if they're in the lead. So I'd actually probably get rid of Breida before Dowdle. I'd keep him in there, but I like taking shots on Deuce Vaughn. They talked about how they have specific packages for his speed to utilize. So I like taking shots on him too. But Pollard is probably my favorite flex on the slate on FanDuel. I would have him on almost every lineup because of that price tag. On DraftKings, he's probably the guy I would be the most underweight on, as scary as that is. And I would be prioritizing Barkley, Lamb, and Cooks as well as the quarterbacks over him.
Totally get it. Let's move over to wide receiver. We have talked about them a lot. We know you like the Cowboys pass catchers. We've got some other sprinkles down here. Kevontae Turpin, Jalen Tolbert, Sterling Shepard is a guy I'm for sure going to keep in the pool because I've seen him be a target monster in this offense. Turpin, I think, is a guy that's going to go. Tolbert, for me, is a guy that's going to go. I know Turpin could absolutely run a kickback and pick up 6 fantasy points. I get it. In fact, maybe I go ahead and keep Turpin in there. Tolbert's not going to be in there, but Turpin, I get. He's absolutely a threat on special teams.
You're killing me. Do I want Sterling Shepard or Daniel Bellinger as the last piece in my one lineup? That's the one that I was torn between. I had Bellinger just because I could easily see him getting a play action TD and score, or just having a huge role if Waller ends up getting hurt in this one. But bringing it back to the receiver position, I like Cooks and Lamb are my number 1 priorities. I'm basically not playing Gallup at all. I'm pretty much just like putting him by the wayside, except for maybe some MME builds with Prescott as the captain. Otherwise, I wouldn't really play Gallup. Hyatt, Campbell, Shepard. I'm not sure about any of them, but I do really like Slayton and Hodgins. Of the cheapies, Campbell would probably be the one I'd be most likely to take shots on. But what do you think as we transition in a tight end here? Should I roll with Sterling Shepard or Daniel Bellinger as my last piece in a lineup?
So Shepard for me is just more of I've seen what he can do. And so I think he's even though he might be showing, I think he's showing that 4th on the depth chart, I think it is. I gotta think they want to figure out how to get him involved. But once again, it is the Giants. What you're going to see, and I'm doing this right now. What you guys are going to see is that I am adjusting ownerships for myself with some of these weird guys because I don't know which one is going to get there. Paris Campbell could have a monster day today, right? I don't know because I don't know which guy is going to be the guy. So I'm just kind of going in ranges of how I feel about these folks. If you ask me straight up, I think Sterling Shepard and lean into the unknown of Sterling Shepard. That's kind of where I am. I'd lean into the unknown, knowing that he could have 8 catches for – it could be 8 catches for 30 yards because that's how they've used him. But still, that's 11 fantasy points for 2,400 if that happens.
On that same theme, I'm leaning into the unknown with Shepard, but also trusting of his knowing of the offense and him being there for a while, whereas Jalen Hyatt's obviously a rookie. Paris Campbell, it's his first year here. I could see those two getting heavily more and more involved as the year goes on, but it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever if Shepard has a bigger role in week 1 just because he's been here and he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you guys can see, I'm going to bump Kevontae Turpin to like 2 fantasy points. I'm going to bump Sterling Shepard to like 4. Just so I can get some of the ownership that I'm looking for with these guys, and go from there. So Shepard, I'm probably going to get in. I'm actually going to play about 10 to 12% Shepard. I'm going on a hunch here. Kevontae Turpin, I'm going to get him in, let's say 4 to 6 lineups. So I'm trying to land around that 5 area. CeeDee Lamb, I'm trying to go well over the field here, right? And let me just make sure my build rules that I do have this open to so it is fairly open to where I can have some very laxed salary cap stuff. As you guys are going to see, I'm going to hit build. It's going to build 50 for me. I'm going to export that, and then we're going to load this thing up into DK. And this is a basic version of how you can get some exposure to some of these games. And just build in lineup HQ. So hopefully this helps some of you guys just being able to look at us kind of do our thing and then plug some lineups in. And would you look at that? I'm right where I want to be here. Look at where I got CeeDee Lamb at. I've got him at 45%. I've got Brandon Cooks at 37 above the field. I'm under the field on Saquon, under the field on Pollard. Wait a minute. Let me see here.
Can I just say I love that Peyton Hendershot exposure?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like I've got a good amount here. Graham Gano at 15. Yep, I'm feeling good, and I got rid of the defenses. I've even got Daniel Bellinger at 21%, which I know that's a little aggressive, but I'm okay. Like I like where I am. Yep, I like where I am.
I like it too. I'm a big fan. I like the idea of getting overweight on Bellinger as well as on Bellinger and Hendershot quite a bit. Those cheap $400 tight ends, I think they're great plays today.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see here in lineups. 1 second. I want. Okay. I think we're good. Let me do this. I want a lot more Ferguson than I have. Let's see if I can get Fergie to the levels I want. And then that'll give you just some interesting takes on some of these things. But yeah, folks, listen, we're up to lock. This has been. Oh, I know, Derek. This is so you guys can get an idea. This is so you guys can get an idea. I'm good to go. I want to thank you guys for joining us today. Thanks so much for hanging out. Hopefully, we were able to give you some insight, a little bit into how we're building here, and then what we'll do next week is maybe I'll show you all of my preset stuff and how I've built those lineups. I'm not sure if TJ is going to be with me, but that's okay. TJ, do you have anything else for the people?
No, I think that is about it. I'm going to have another Prize Picks article for Monday Night Football tomorrow night. And then other than that, that's about it for me. It's a busy, busy day. 3 articles, 2 shows, but I'm ready to relax and watch some Sunday Night Football.
Okay, folks, we're going to thank you for joining the Pre-Lock Show. I'm Chief. This has been TJ. Sunday Night Football's coming up. It's week 1. It's Dallas. It's the Giants. Get you some pizza. Get you some wings. Watch you some football. And hopefully take down a showdown slate. We'll see you later.